Can I speak English? And if you don't understand, or there's a word that I'm saying which is not clear, you can ask. Does that make sense? We can try? Perfect. Thank you very much for being here. I am very glad to be here. This is my first time in Temuco. And tomorrow I'm going to visit some nice places. And I am very grateful to Monica that raised the idea, to Juan Carlos that paid for the idea, and for Beatrice, who is so welcoming, and I don't see her. Okay, thank you all. I'm not sure what is your background and what are your interests, so I apologize in advance that maybe some of the things that I'll be saying will be less clear or more clear. Be with me, okay? So what I would like to do, I would like to say some things about decision-making in child welfare. Most of the things that you probably know after you've been in Monica's course. Then I would like to present a model. You know, we in the university, if we don't have a model, nobody listens. So now we have a model and you will listen. Are we okay? Okay. And then I will present very briefly findings from an international study that shows some of the points that I'm going to make before that. And then I really want to talk about these issues, the issue of context and the issue of evidence-based practice, which is something that I guess in your university, like any place other in the world, everybody is saying, you need to do evidence-based practice, right? Wrong, but we'll talk about it. Okay. And this is always, when I go places, I always suggest more collaboration. And I'll say two things. One is that I'll be very happy to be back here. But more than that, I told Monica, if any one of you is working on a thesis and would like to discuss some ideas, and have questions, I'm open. That's why I'm here. I'll be very happy to help you. Okay? Good. So, we know that social workers and other professionals in this area make very important decisions on behalf of children and their lives. And some of them, and I'll be actually focusing on this question, is whether to remove a child from home. This is not the only decision that is being made, but we all know it's a very important one. So it will give us an example of something to work with and understand the complexities of making such a decision. So far, we okay with English? Okay. So the other idea is the idea of what we call reunification. You take a child from home, and the question is, can you bring the child back home? Reunification. So I'll say something about it, but most of the time I'll use the example of whether to remove a child from home. Okay. 5 o'clock, you'll tell me, Monica? Okay. Okay. Well, why are these decisions made by workers important? Well, everybody knows. I mean, that's not why you brought me here to tell you that these are important decisions. But just in case, for anyone who is coming from the moon or from Mars, why is it important? And it is important for two reasons. And I'll say something about each one of them, and you probably, in the course, you already know this word, the false positive and the false negative. I am removing a child from home. If that's the right decision, perfect. I decide not to remove the child from home. If that's the right decision, excellent. However, if I don't remove a child from home, and a day later we hear in the news that the mother did something to the child or the father, then it's a false positive. We're in big trouble. The other trouble is that I quickly remove a child from home, saving the child from problems at home, and putting the child in a place that may be very bad for him and create damages for many years to come. So I wish I knew to have only positive, making the right decisions, and no false positive and no false negative. Now, here is the story that you have to remember if you came to hear me. There is no way in the world to avoid mistakes. Okay? And that's something that you have to remember, that whatever you decide, you have to take into account that because the world is uncertain, your decision may end up at the end to be bad decisions. But before that, I want to add other aspects to it so to make your life more difficult, if you thought it wasn't difficult enough. One of them is that we know that we as human beings are very smart. I mean, you're here, right? I get paid to talk to you, so we are all very smart. We take rockets to the moon, so we can think. But it's true that if you check our abilities, they are limited. So many times, we cannot make all the computations, all the considerations in our mind, and we make shortcuts. We cannot everything sit down and start thinking A and B plus C. We don't do that. We just make a decision. We're going to this restaurant or to that restaurant. We decide to buy this house or not. I mean, how many months can you think about buying a house? At the end, you have to make a decision and you make a shortcut. Making these shortcuts is very useful, but we also make mistakes because of these shortcuts. So we have to realize that despite the fact that we think that we are very smart, still we are limited. The other point I want to make sure that you know by yourself, these are not perfect circumstances for decision making. Okay? When you want to buy a house, you go and visit, you talk to your husband, you look at another place and do all this so that you get maximum information. Many times in child welfare environment, things cannot work that way. You have a time pressure, you have a phone call from the teacher, says the child came with bruises on the hand. I think that's the mother or the father or someone. I'm worried. You can say, okay, take your time, take a couple of months to go to this house, to that house. We have to make a decision. If it's 10 o'clock at night, it's even worse. But even if it's not so fast, it's still, you have to make decisions. You cannot take all the time. That also means that you don't have all the information. You wish you had all the information about what's going on at home, what's going on with the friends, what happened in the past, and so on and so forth. So many times, you don't get this information. Even worse, you get wrong information, sometimes deliberately. The mother is not going to tell you all the secrets of the house when you're asking. The father won't admit that he is hitting the child. So you have to go through this information, which is not clear and not sure, and still make a decision. Because at the end, not making a decision is a decision. And prolonging the process is a very, very important decision you are making. Okay, so you don't have a choice. Okay.
Please go on.
Okay. This may be complicated, you may need help. Okay? I would like to help you see two issues. One of them I call error, and the other one a mistake. Okay? The idea of error is because the world is uncertain. Okay? Let me give you an example. I offer you 2 lotteries. In one, you pay 100 pesos and you can win 1,000,000 pesos. Okay? In the other one, you pay 100 pesos and you can win 500,000 pesos. Which one would you select? The one with the 1,000,000 pesos. Someone doesn't want to take the 1,000,000, I'll just... So you are going to do that. But we all know that in a lottery, you don't know what comes out. So at the end, maybe you lose that 1,000 pesos, while if you use this one, you would win. Now, will you say, oh, how stupid I was to go for the 1,000,000 pesos? Will you say that? No, because you cannot judge the decision by the outcome. This is a very complicated idea for people to understand. Because when people say the outcome, they say, well, you made a mistake in your decision. Because they know the outcome. They know what happened. They are very smart. They already know what happened. But you did not know what will happen when you made a decision. So having this kind of error, it's beyond your power. You are making the best decision you can make, knowing what is available to you, not knowing what happens in the future. Only Jesus or whatever know what will happen in the future. You don't know. So this error is something that we have to accept. This is part of this hard decision we are making. What you don't want to make is a mistake. And the mistake is not thinking correctly, not looking for the right information, making a decision too quickly, not taking into account negative outcomes. This is a mistake. This is what you should be learning over time to make less and less mistakes, not to think about the future. For instance, the child is being beaten up by parents. Okay? You want to right away take the child away to save him. Well, maybe sometimes you need to count to 10 and see if you can find a way of preventing it without taking a child from home and maybe creating a long, long history of suffering for the child and for the family. Maybe it was just an accident. Maybe it was just I'm not saying what you have to decide, but thinking carefully about the whole picture is something that you can learn. Okay. Next. How can we make decisions better? We all care for the children. We all want to make decisions better. How can we? Not easy. I'm not here to give you, people that go and teach you how to be rich in 5 lessons, take your money so you'll be rich later. I can't tell you that it's easy to make good decisions, but there are some things that over time we can do better, and I want to talk about that. What we would like to do is to be able to have a prescriptive model. Like the doctor says, you have this and this symptoms, here is this medicine, and you go with it. That's a prescription, okay? We wish that if we have a case, we'll go over the case, and at the end, we're going to have a prescription. You have fever, and this, you'll get antibiotics. A child has this, and that. This is the right solution. We wish to be in this situation. We're not. We are far away from that. So, it says the reality, a long way to go. This is not something that we can expect that tomorrow you'll go to school and instead of hearing how difficult it is to make decisions, someone will tell you exactly what to do when. This is not going to happen, even with Monica. It just doesn't happen. Life is too complicated, and you have to take this into account. We cannot expect to have this kind of, if you see this, do this. If you see this, do that. To some extent, but it will never be enough to make your decisions on a prescription level. So, what can we do to be in a better position 5 years from now, 2 years from now? Not just saying, oh, life is terrible, what can we do? But how can we move ahead? And one idea is instead of using prescription, what to do, use first descriptive, which means let us study what people are doing and how they are doing. If we understand what they are doing, maybe we can find mistakes in what they're doing. Maybe we can find good ideas and use them for other things. So by focusing on what people are doing and studying it, then we are in a better situation to think what we like and what we don't like in what people do. Is that idea clear? Okay. Because what I want to say is that that's how we want to use knowledge to help avoid mistakes and reduce error. The more we know, the better predictions we can make. And we want to do that, then this will lead us to prescriptive models over time. It will take time to get there. And knowledge. And knowledge is expert knowledge, learning from people that are doing it and they're doing it well, but also empirical knowledge. And this is something that most countries in the world are not doing. They are very busy making decisions and saying, oh, good decisions, bad decision. Very few places collect data on what they are doing and what happens later. So I understand that some of you are working in residential care, okay? Do you have a computer system to know who are the children in your care? Anyone has something like that?
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have. How many of you know what happened to the children that were in care 5 years ago?
No, sabe lo que pasó con los niños hace 5 años.
Okay. Can you learn from that experience? When do you succeed and when not?
¿Son capaces de aprender de esa experiencia, de qué cosa tiene éxito y qué no?
So you can see that there is a way for us to go and to learn from our experience. And we have so many workers working with so many children. But if you go back and you ask, in Temuco, how many children have we treated? 1,000, 2,000, 5,000? How many of them did well? How many not? Was that connected to who are the parents or something else? Do you know that? But it's thousands of hours of work that you're doing and you don't know what happened. If you want to say something. They don't have time, and it's also written in paper, and to read it will take so many hundred of hours, and making sense of it will take more. And so many times people say, I say, do you know? And they say, yes. And I say, okay, show me. And they say, you know, there, down there, we have lockers. Look there, we have thousands of files. Go read them and you'll learn. Por favor. That's what's happening across the world. There is very little investment in really making it available so that you can learn from it. And I think that that's something that today, is there anyone here that doesn't have WhatsApp? He is even using it now when I'm speaking. Everybody has WhatsApp. This is the technology. You're working in places with that amount of technology to help you work. All the money for Facebook and WhatsApp and Twitter and all this doesn't go into children, doesn't go into your work. It goes because there is a commercial interest in using it. All this energy, just imagine that Zuckerberg would think about you and try to help you. Do you believe then you can have data to help you work? Of course, because companies use this data, much more complicated data, because someone invests in that. and making effort because they see the money. They don't see the money in the children. So we have to help them with what we can to create a different kind of environment in which we are saying we want to know and we want to study what is happening. So this is the idea of a descriptive model before we get to the prescription. And I want to show you the model. Of course, I have to show you the model because, you know, I'm from the academia. I show you a model. But I would like to try to explain why I think it's important. Okay? So we want to get to the decision. We want to get to the point where we say this child should be removed from home today. Or not, okay? This child, we should be working with the family so that the child remains at home. This is the decision. How do we get to this decision? Well, one of the things we do, we assess the risk. If there is very high risk, it leads us to think about removing the child, less risk, and so on, right? Okay. One of the ways for us to assess risk is a word called substantiation. You don't need this in English. The point is this. The teacher called and said, the child has bruises. That must be the parents. But you, as a worker, have to decide whether that was the parent or that the child fell or that was an accident. So you have what they call in English to substantiate. Is this a real abuse or not? If you make this decision that this is a real case, you assess the risk and you make a decision. Agreed? It's the process. Now, how do you make this? You look at the child and you look at the family, right? You say the child is behaving like that, the mother is doing this, and I saw the mother at home, and you know all this work that you're doing. But so many times, we don't take into account that all this is done by a worker in an agency, which, if you think about it, are two workers going to make the same decision on the same case? Is a worker working in Temuco and a worker working in a different place in Santiago or in a place where other population, will they make the same decisions? Not sure, not sure. So it's not what we learn in school that you look at the child, you look at the mother, you do diagnosis, and that's how you operate. The fact is, it's not only them, it's also you. So one of the things that we are studying is how the decisions are made not only by who is the child and who is the family, but also who is the worker. You see the point? Okay. If that's not clear, you know. So all this lead to the decision. But, and here's my point, and I think I have enough time to talk about it. You see this? This is what we call el contexto. So all this is not in the moon and is not there. It's in a certain place and time. So the same case in Chile and the same case in Argentina or in the Netherlands, they may be looked at differently. Exactly the same story. I give you the story, and I give her the story, and I give Monica in Spain or and I ask, what will you do? How do you look at the case? And you will find out that they look at it differently. Okay? And that's what I mean by the context. So that's what I would like for you to be aware of. It's not something that you can change, but my attempt is to help you see the context. And the reason why I'm saying it, I'll give you a joke, which is very difficult from English to Spain, to Spanish and so on. Two fish are two young fish are swimming up the river. And then there is an older fish coming down. And the older fish is very nice to young fish, and he says, the water today is warm. And the fish go, and they go to each other. Then one of them asks the other, what is water? They live in the water. They don't see the water. You don't see the context you live in. For you, it's reality. You don't have to think all the time what is happening. This is where you live. This is what you do, and you're not aware of it. How can you become aware that what you live in is not the whole world? You go out. You go to Argentina. You find that people behave a little bit differently. You go to Africa. You see people behave differently. And so then you realize that you are in a water, and they have a different water or a different air. So if we start to understand that, then we ask ourselves, what's special in our air that makes us behave the way we do? I'll give you an example. One of them is our laws. You live in Chile, you have laws of child protection. They help you or force you to make certain decisions because you have to abide by the law. In a different country, they have a different law. So the same case will be looked at differently. You live in Tomoko. You have certain resources. Maybe you feel you have less money than others. Someone lives in a place that is richer. The decisions they make are influenced by whether they can do something. I'll give you an example. You look at the child and you remember what Monica told you, and you do all your work and you say, you know, what this child really needs is a foster family for 1 year so that the mother can recover and can take the child back. Perfect sense. Good decision. Then, if you're in Holland, you turn around and you say, I have 5 foster families that can take a child for a year. I'll take this one. You here in Tomoko, you say, I don't have a foster family that I can trust to return the child in a day. So will you make the same decision like in Holland? You won't. You should not. So the fact is that you have to work within your context, but you have to understand how your decisions are being impacted. What is the air that you are walking in and you're not aware of? Sometimes, some of you are activists, and they say, I don't like the air that we have here. I would like to move so that we have more foster families. I cannot accept it that we cannot find foster families for a short time. I'll try to do something about it. And I know the social workers around the world are making a difference. And they say, well, we are used to have residential care, which is fine, but we also need this. And we have to do something about it. So you're not only accepting the context, you're also in a situation where you can change it. Some of you, not all the time, but you can see around you many examples of social workers that made a difference. And they did not accept what was there forever. And they just wanted to make a difference. Okay. So I want to share with you, because still, my time can run out, but I'm just saying these are all kinds of contexts that influence our work, because who we are makes a difference. Some of us are very, come from a poor home and know people that the government took the child away because they were poor, and we feel very bad about it, and we don't want it to happen. Some of us are exactly the opposite. Believe that the best thing for a child is to live in good residential care. So that's our personal thing. There's also the agency. Some places that work have good resources, have good foster families. Some don't. It impacts what you're going to be doing. Can you change? Can you do? And so on. What is the policy? Is the policy changing? Is the policy helping you do certain things or other? Where do you live in the country? Whether it's the South, someone just told me that you are not in the highest socioeconomic status of Chile. Well, that makes a difference. If you were in a place with more resources, maybe certain things would be possible that are not possible today. And in what country do you live? Because some things that can be done in Chile cannot be done in Argentina, and the other way around. So you have to be aware of that. Let me, I'll just, so I'm going back to this model, but what I would like to emphasize, again, is the context. And I want to show you that the policies impact everything you do. The resources that you have, the constraints is what you cannot do. You cannot do certain things because of the law, because you don't have resources. They impact what you do. What are your values and attitudes? And what do you know? All this impact the way you think. Let me share with you a study. I won't go through all the details, but it'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about. We have done a study in several countries in the world, and I understand that Monica showed you the case. The case.
The results.
No. Okay, I'll say something about the results, but I think what's important is what we have done is we said, here is a case translated to like 10 languages, run in 10 different countries. It's not even done now. They're doing it in Italy and so at long last in Germany, Portugal, and all these places. And the idea was to take a case and make it look like a case in your own country. So for instance, when we started, we had there something about the military. We just removed that because nobody is interested in the Israeli military. Good for them. So the case is a real case for everyone. People look at it and say, oh, I know this case, okay? And we ask them, is it a real case? What is the risk assessment? And what would you do? Okay? Exactly the same case. Well, in different countries, they saw it very differently and made different decisions on the same case. Because if in Spain they don't have foster families, they won't recommend a foster family. In Ireland, they really want to do certain things, they'll do something that they do in Ireland. So every country was different in what they do. But let me also share with you. Each one of the people that participate in the study completed the questionnaire. And maybe it's a good idea to give the questionnaire, to talk about it to your students. And the questionnaire is asking about attitudes toward child welfare. For instance, if a child is being physically abused by a parent, will you remove the child from home? If the child is neglected, will you remove the child from home? Will you ask the child for their contribution in decision making? Will you ask the parents? And so on and so forth. These are personal beliefs. And what we found is that these personal beliefs had an influence on what people made as decisions. The same case, two workers looking at the same case, coming up with different assessment and decisions because they have different values. Now you have to ask yourself, do I like it? Is it okay? On the one hand, people say, yes, social workers work with their value system. Social workers should have values and do things according to their value. But imagine you're a parent. You're going to the child welfare agency on Monday and you meet Monica. And Monica says, never take a child from home, only in the worst of cases. So she will work with you to prevent taking the child from home. But if you come Tuesday I know Juan Carlos. He wants to take children from home every day. And you come to him, and the same child, the same family, will get a very different treatment. Do we like it? I'm not sure. But it's something that we have to think about. And first of all, we have to ask ourselves, wait. What are my values? What are my attitudes that influence the way I make decisions? So many times we don't stop and think about ourselves and what drives our decisions. So I think that courses like this one that help you talk about it, and then you say, oh really? I never thought that someone will think something like that. Talk to me about it. Because by talking, then you realize that the way you see the world may not be the only way. And people have different experiences and different ideologies, and they think differently than you. Doesn't mean that you have to take their position, but at least you understand that there is more than one view. So I'm not going to go into statistics because I was told that people don't like statistics, but I will tell you that doing this study, we found very clear differences between countries and between workers in these countries. And that means that it will be very nice if one of you or some of you will do the thesis on your country, so that you won't only read the paper about what is happening in Holland or in the United States or Argentina, but you can say, this is what's happening not even in Chile, in Temuco. And that's how us as social workers think about it. And then you can contribute to your own decision-making process and what you do. This is the study. If anyone is really interested in research and study, I would love to share with you, and Monica has the example. I'm not going to do that. Just to give you a sense, I have to. No, I won't. The same case, judgment differently by professionals with different attitudes in the same country. So if I give the case that Monica showed you, you will get different decisions in this room, in this place. But it's also different decisions in different countries. And that may be good, because you cannot say, oh, I want to send a child to a foster family when you don't have a foster family. So you have to be part of your own country. So this is something that I don't want to talk about. I'll just, okay, let me just finish with this. I know I asked a lot of you with my English and so much information, but what I would like you to take out of here is really continue to think about your values and how where you work impacts how you do it. And what I would really, if you can, think about how can you collect data that when we meet 2 years from now, you will know more than you know now. And this is a challenge, because in so many places that I've been, people were working for 10, 15, 25 years, but what they knew is something that they could not say, even after working for 25 years, because it was not documented, it was not computerized, it was not analyzed, it was all these files that there are many differences in the world, but the files look the same. The same big places with papers and papers and papers that go like that everywhere, that nobody looks at. So that if that's something that can be changed over time, you're a young generation, you're used to use computers, you trust computers more than the older people, maybe you can make a difference so that you can learn more about what you're doing and improve it for the benefit of the children in the future. I'll stop here for questions, okay? Maybe I was so clear there are no questions. Aquí. Acá.
En castellano me hizo mucho sentido cuando usted habló de que acá, o sea, perdón, en Holanda, si uno busca familias de acogida, de foster family, usted puede encontrar 3, 4, acá no se encuentran. Y eso es porque acá no se ha hecho nunca una campaña, no se ha hecho nunca una invitación a las familias a acoger. Entonces aquí hay una carencia, no es porque la gente sea mala, no es porque la gente no quiera, es porque no se ha hecho una campaña y incluso se considera que no, es imposible que una familia acoja a un niño ya medianamente grande. Entonces aquí hay instalado en Chile unos mitos, el mito de que solamente los niños pequeños pueden ser adoptados y solo adoptados. No hay la posibilidad de que un niño más grande vaya por un tiempo a vivir con una familia que lo quiera acoger y en la eventualidad se pueda comprometer para siempre con él o con ella. Eso no es aceptado por el sistema, como que no, eso es marciano, no es de la tierra, como que eso no existe acá. Y usted lo dijo muy bien, en otros países eso se ha promovido, es parte del saber hacer, del ser solidario, del voluntariado, es parte de eso. Entonces, la pregunta sería, ¿cómo poder derribar ese mito y poder invitar a familias que se unan con esta cruzada? Porque hacer vivir a un niño en forma institucionalizada es muy dañino.
Okay. Did you understand the question? I did. I think that we have to remember that first, every country has a history, and it does impact what is accepted and what is not accepted. But it doesn't mean that it's the end of the story, because things do change. There are at least, when I think about it, at least 2 major forces for change. One of them is the outside. There is the Convention for the Rights of the Child, and there is a major pressure from international bodies to move away from institutions to foster care. And when Chile really wants to show itself as a progressive country, this influence can help. So that's an outside. What I saw, for instance, in Israel, is inside leadership. And what happened, for instance, in Israel, it started mostly with residential care. We have a history, socialism, kibbutzim, and saving refugees from the Holocaust, all around youth villages and residential care. But over time, strong people in charge of foster care really fought to increase foster care. So instead of 5%, now it's 25%. And they're pushing and pushing. So it's not like the end of the story. Now, if you think about it, there may be someone here in Temuco that is saying, we want to make a difference. We'll get maybe funding from the World Bank, I'm just giving an example, to create a pilot. Piloto. And we will just take one area and we'll try to get 25 foster families, not 250, not 2,000, 25. And we'll work 4 years with 25 families, and we'll show, we'll document, we'll study, we'll show where it works and where it doesn't. Nothing is perfect. And from this, we may show others that we saved money. That's the most important part. We saved money because residential care costs much more. And we have better outcomes, and these children are going to the university, which saves us money, and they'll pay taxes. So that's one way of making a case for something that you want to do. Okay?
Sí.
Una de las cuestiones que discutimos un poquito en nuestro curso fue el uso de algoritmos para la toma de decisiones, ¿no? Que en algunos sitios está poniendo muy de moda. Tenemos a muchos colegas estadounidenses, ¿no? Intentando, probándolo, intentando implementar este tipo de recursos que nos asisten a los trabajadores sociales en la toma de decisiones, y por otra parte tenemos a muchos escolares siendo muy críticos, midiendo las connotaciones éticas que esto tiene, ¿no? Y apuntando hacia los riesgos, más bien.
That was too fast for me, the last one, but that's okay. I think I understand. I think let's. Okay. I'll try to be, again, this is a long discussion, but just a few points. I don't believe you can jump, you have bikes, and you can jump to rockets. You need to build something so you can work with. So if you're in a position where there is nothing computerized, no information is collected over time, you don't understand who are the children, what are you doing, what are the outcomes. You don't go to a company and tell them, give me an algorithm. That's not the way to go. There is so much to be learned from the basic, what I call monitoring of who are the children, what are you doing, and what are the outcomes. Just imagine you're in residential care, okay? You have 100 children. How many children usually you have less here? Okay, so you have 25, 25, 25, and you're in charge, okay? Now, instead of only having all these paper files, that if I ask you something about the children, what can you say? Go to the files and start counting. In Israel, not here of course, what happens is that someone says, I have money for children that came from this and this place. How many are there? Well, no problem. We'll just go to the files and we'll start looking. Okay? Then I have another question, and again they go to the files and start looking. Just imagine that you have an organized way of knowing who are the children in your care in very basic information about their families, about who they are. You take a picture of these children every 6 months or every year, saying he has this good things happening for him, he has the bad things happening, this is the problems, these are the strengths. Do it half a year later. Do we have a change? Is something improving in the behavior, in the school, in the health, in the relationship with others? Is it still having the problem, sexual harassing others? And so on and so forth. And you also write what you do. Did you work with the family? Did you work with the child? Then, if you start collecting this kind of data, then you come back and you look at it. Because it's not only on paper, it's in the computer. You can analyze it. I'll just give you an example. When I started doing something like that with the foster care agency, and instead of papers, I asked for something that was put in the computer, I told them, do you know how many mothers of children in foster care have mental health problems? A fair question? 10 supervisors, old people like me, know everything. Did they know the answer? Yes. 2%, 15%, 2%, 65%, everybody knew something very different. Because they know some cases, they don't have a picture. I asked them, how old are the children in foster care? Simple as that. Does that make a difference how old? Yes, it does. Well, they didn't know. Because they know a child, and they know another child, and they don't have a picture. But if you find out that 40% of the children are adolescents, it's a very different system than only 5% are adolescents and all the rest are young. Am I being clear? Just the basic information can help you very much create a basis for practice. Then you can do one step further and one step further. But if I ask you, who is working in residential care? Who is working in a child welfare agency? In anything. People are afraid of me and they want to admit. No, I'm just trying to ask, if they could tell us the distribution of age of their clients or what happened to the outcomes after. No, they cannot. They cannot. Nobody can. So before we go to algorithms and to very smart things, let's start with the basics. Okay? Just imagine you would go to your doctor and he will have to start looking for files to find something and not be able to look at the computer. Or you go to the bank and they tell you, well, we have to look. Oh, you have an account here? Yes? Okay, we'll just go to the basement and we'll start looking for the. Will you accept this? You won't accept it in any other parts of your lives. But this is the reality with what you work. Okay, answer that, I believe.
Otra consulta.
Gracias. Una pregunta. Ahora en inglés. Al inglés.
My English is...
That's okay, my Spanish is worse.
Con experiencias de otros países que con las condiciones de Chile hayan pasado de una política de cuidado alternativo o de familias de acogida tan limitada como la que tenemos nosotros a más diversa.
No, I know places that try and start. People, I think, in Portugal are talking more about it. In Spain, I believe they're talking. In Israel, not 100%, but more. And I don't think that we should all have 100% foster care. Personally, I believe residential care can be good. Good residential care can be good for certain children, and foster families can be good for foster families. The question is the balance. And if you don't have an option, there are no foster families, then you're in trouble. And if you ask me about other countries, I think Israel is a good example of adding more and more foster care. And I think that in Portugal they are fighting for it, and I think in Spain as well. So I think there are attempts. Okay?
Bien. Muchas gracias.
Oh, gracias.